Now, if you have a narcissist in your world, then you need to stop doing some certain things right now that may be costing you. Costing you what, may you ask? Costing you your sanity, your mental health, costing you money, costing you leverage, costing you things that you might want in your divorce action, costing you all kinds of things, including the life you want, and on and on. So you're going to want to stop doing these things right now. And if you're not sure if you're married to a narcissist, then you're going to want to check out my video called Are You Married to a Narcissist? And I will drop a link to that one below. And if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a business partnership, friendship, neighbor, employee, boss, whatever, then you're going to want to stop doing these things right now. So drum roll, please. Number 10. Number 10 is never call them a narcissist. They hate that. Number one, they're never going to see themselves as a narcissist. And number two, then whatever you call them, that's what you're going to become. Because they always end up projecting, gaslighting, manipulating, all of those things that narcissists like to do. And it's just going to get turned around and become that that's what you are. And they're going to say that you have all of those traits and everything that you say. So you're going to end up being the one that's called the narcissist. So don't call them a narcissist. That's number 10. All right, number 9. Number 9 is don't let them cross boundaries that you've set. So if you've listened to some of my other videos, or you've listened to my webinars, or you've followed me at all, then you know that one of the things that I say all the time is that you have to create really definite boundaries when you're dealing with narcissists. Narcissists don't respect boundaries. That's part of their entitlement and their control and all of the things that they're involved with. So if you go ahead and set boundaries, like I'm not going to allow this person into this part of my life, or I'm not going to allow this person to communicate with me in any way other than this particular way, or I'm not going to allow this person to, whatever it is, and you've laid down those boundaries. Now, if you let them cross those boundaries, now you're lowering the bar, and they know exactly how much they have to push next time to get you to blow past those boundaries. Because as soon as you set a boundary, first thing they're going to do is try to blow past that. So you're actually conditioning that narcissist. It's almost like behavior modification tactics. So every time you allow them to blow past that boundary, then they know that they can just need to have a little bit more of a tantrum, have a little bit more of narcissistic rage next time, a little bit angrier, and you'll step back. So once you fix a boundary, you need to stay with it and never let them cross that. Okay, so that's number 9. Number 8 is never allow them to disrespect you. This kind of goes hand in hand with the boundaries. I mean, they can do the things that they're going to do. They'll gaslight, manipulate, intimidate, gather their flying monkeys on their side, do all the things that narcissists do, pathologically lie. But if you allow them to disrespect you by calling you names and things like that, then again, you are setting that goal, setting that standard for how far they can go. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said that no one can give you or treat you in any way that you don't give them permission to. And so don't give them permission to. If they disrespect you, you can very calmly say to them, I'm not going to have a conversation with you while you're disrespecting me, or we can speak again later when you've gathered yourself and you're under control and you can speak to me in a way that is respectful. So, and as soon as you say that you're not being respected, they'll say, well, you're not respecting me. So you can just say, absolutely, I'm respecting you. And that's why I don't think it's productive for us to have a conversation right now, or whatever you need to say. But the next one is stop letting them disrespect you. All right, number 7 is stop expecting them to take responsibility for their actions. They're not going to. That's part of being a narcissist. They're not going to say, oh, I really shouldn't have treated you like that, or you're right, I screwed up at that project. Or, I mean, I've had employees like that in my law practice where, it's mistake after mistake after mistake. And, it's always someone else's fault, or something else that happened. It's never their fault. And that's what you're going to see with narcissists too. So stop expecting them to take responsibility for their actions. They're not going to. And number 6, stop explaining or justifying. When you get those emails that are very clearly meant to trigger you, that call you the deadbeat dad, or call you the crappy mom, or say that you're irresponsible or whatever. I mean, they're trying to bait you, they're trying to goad you, they're trying to inflame you, they're trying to incite you. That's what narcissists do, because that's how they get control over you. Once you lose control, then they know that they have you. So if you go into this whole thing where you're trying to explain, you're trying to defend, you're trying to justify, you're oversharing, all these things, then you're just giving them control. Again, you're handing them control. So stop doing that. Stop explaining, stop justifying, stop trying to get them to see what you're trying to say. It's pointless anyway. And so just save your energy on that. And if you know what I'm saying so far is the truth, give me a truth in the comments. All right, number 5. Number 5 is stop giving them ammunition. Remember that every text, every email, everything that you put in writing will always be used against you if they can. So don't give them ammunition. Don't behave in a way that gives them ammunition. Don't say anything that gives you ammunition. And believe me, I know that what I'm telling you to do right now is almost superhuman. You have to be Superman or Wonder Woman and just have the strength and the discipline to not react. But, if you need to go and react outside of the presence of that narcissist. Scream at, when you're in therapy, scream to your best friend, scream to, your pillow, go home and yell, go in the bathroom and cry, whatever you need to do, but don't show the narcissist that they've gotten to you. Don't you dare do that. And don't give them any ammunition. All right, number 4 is don't take anything personally. Remember that the narcissist inside is the scared little hollow chocolate Easter bunny that has absolutely nothing inside, has no ability to have any empathy, any compassion, or any caring for any single person but themselves. It's all about self-preservation for them. It's like as if you have a really bad toothache, and when you have a really terrible toothache, all you can feel is that toothache. You don't really understand what impact you might be having on somebody else if you scream at them or you yell at them or whatever. That's what's going on with a narcissist. Everything is manipulated and for their use to make themselves feel better, to give them that narcissistic supply. They'll grab onto it like those hitchhiker things that stick onto clothes, whatever they can do to grab onto something to give them narcissistic supply. It's all about them. So you can't ever take it personally when they cut you down, when they are nasty to you, when they degrade you, devalue you. It's all about trying to make themselves feel better. It has nothing to do with you, and it has nothing to do with your value as a human being. So remember that, and never take anything personally. All right, number 3, stop expecting them to have empathy, care, concern, or compassion. Stop expecting that. They're not going to give it to you. As I said, they don't have the ability to give it to you. People can only give what they have. And you're seriously expecting blood out of a stone. It's not going to happen. They just don't have the ability to. It's like wishing someone had an arm if they don't. If somebody doesn't have arms, you can't go and tell them to go pick up something off the floor with their hands because they don't have them. So, and that's what you're basically expecting a narcissist to do when you're expecting care, compassion, empathy, or concern. it doesn't exist for them. They don't even understand really what you're saying, to be honest with you. It's like, speaking a different language. They understand that other people have that, I think, but they don't have it. So stop expecting it. All right. Number two, don't underestimate them. Don't underestimate how far they will go, how far they will go to protect their ego, how far they will go to maintain control, how far they will go to make themselves look good and you look bad. They'll basically do whatever they can get away with. So, and even then some, so they'll do whatever they need to do for their own self-preservation, and to make sure that they're the ones that come out smelling like the rose, or looks like they're the ones wearing the white hat versus the black hat, or whatever it is that they need to do. Their survival instinct is strong, and they've been manipulating since the beginning of time for themselves. So, that whole 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, well, they've got way more hours than that. They are master manipulators. So don't underestimate them. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt. They don't deserve it. And don't underestimate how far they'll go. And number one is don't waste your breath, energy, time, mental power, or anything else trying to get them to see the error of their ways. Don't try to get them to see, geez, look what you're doing to the children. They don't care. Look what you're doing to me. They don't care. Look at the impact that you're having on this or that. They don't care. All they care about is self-preservation and survival. So if you sit there and you try to say, look at how much I've done for you. I can't believe you're doing this to me. This doesn't even make any sense. What you're saying doesn't even make any sense. It's not reasonable. Wasting breath, wasting breath, wasting energy. Okay? They're not going to see the error of their ways. You can try to point out that they lied in a text message. I just recently got an email from someone that said that, they have an email where the person got a text from, or it was a text that they had gotten from some woman they were cheating with, and it specifically said all kinds of sexual things. And yet he stood right there and said to her, I'm not cheating. And she just said she was trying to fight back with him and trying to show him, well, that doesn't, waste of time, waste of time, waste of energy. Spend your time on your strategy, spend your time on your communication skills, spend your time on plotting how you're going to get out of this relationship with this person if you can. Spend your time on something that's productive, like self-care for yourself. I have a whole video on self-care with a narcissist, and I will drop a link to that below. Spend your time on how you're going to outsmart the narcissist. I have a video on that, and I'll drop a link to that one below. But don't spend your time trying to get them to see the error of their ways or how they're impacting anyone else. They're not going to see it, and your time is better spent somewhere else, like on you.
All right, today we are uncovering 4 things to never say to narcissists. You're going to want to stay all the way to the end because we're going to make sure that the best is saved for last. Knowledge can transform your interactions and protect your peace of mind. So let's get started. Let's dive right into the 4 things you should never say to a narcissist. These are the things that you want to make sure that you never say because they can trigger them, right? And they can escalate conflicts, they can trigger manipulation and undermine your efforts to maintain a peaceful situation. You want to be on the stealth. You want to ethically manipulate the manipulator. That's what I always say. All right. So the first one is you're wrong. Don't ever say you're wrong. I mean, you want to say things like, help me understand, or I agree with you. I agree that we're never going to agree, or things like that. Or, like, I'm curious, where did you come up with that idea? You want to be like a little bit more stealth about things than rather just you're wrong. Because if you just push back against, you're going to be like pushing up against a brick wall, right? Confronting a narcissist directly, especially when you're like chipping right into that shame wound that they have, is like really declaring and escalating unnecessary conflict, especially when you're trying to get somewhere. You're trying to like go through this battle of hell so that you can get out the other side and be done and be free. They thrive on this kind of drama. I mean, this is what they want. They're baiting you and they're getting supply from this. And now you're down in the mud and you're stuck in this thing. You don't want to be stuck in the drama, trauma, and chaos. You want out of this thing. So you got to be smarter. You got to be more tactical. You got to be more strategic than this. So you want to maybe present things as opinions or present things as a we rather than a you, or as a I rather than as a you. So you can say, I feel like maybe there might be another approach here. Let's like maybe consider. This can like disarm them so that they aren't so defensive, and that way it keeps the conversation flowing a little bit more. You want to kind of keep things on the neutral. So for example, if you're in a work situation, you might have a narcissistic colleague who proposes an idea that is just absolutely not feasible at all. Instead of saying, no way, you're totally wrong, you might say, I think that there may be some challenges here with that approach. Perhaps we could explore some alternatives here. If your narcissistic family member insists on a specific plan for a family gathering that completely doesn't work for you, instead of saying, like, that's a totally bad idea and no way, try saying, like, well, I'm concerned about how that plan might work out. Like, can we consider some other options as well? Instead of like just pushing back completely, you have to like kind of go around. And how about if you come up with some other ideas also? Like, let them come up with some other ideas also, like seed it in them. That always is like a great idea too. Let them come up with it and then you like select from their other options. That's the first one. The second one is you don't care about anyone but yourself, even though that's definitely true. Okay. They don't want to be called out on it. They don't want to be seen as that because, they want to be seen as, something other than who they actually are. Okay, so while this may be your genuine feeling, and this is probably the absolute truth, accusing them of being completely selfish is just totally not going to get you anywhere. And what you want is for you to be able to get somewhere with this whole thing, right? You don't want them to shut down. You don't want them to retaliate against you. If you're trying to accomplish something and to figure out, okay, how are you going to be able to accomplish something here? So you want to maybe focus on specific behaviors and the impact that they might have, because you got to figure out, how is this going to be better for them? You got to think about, how can you make this better so that it's from their perspective. Okay, so you think, well, when you engage in this particular behavior, whatever it is, it makes me feel overlooked. And then it centers the conversation on your feelings, invites empathy rather than accusation. You might even say, I'm sure that this is not your intention, or I'm sure that, I knew that you were considering all of these things. I'm sure that this isn't what, your desired impact was. But what's happening is this, so that it doesn't like you leave them an out of like, oh, right, I didn't think about that, right? So that you can give them an opportunity to go, yeah, I didn't think about that, because I know that you deeply care about all of these other things, but this is what ended up happening. Like, and if a narcissistic partner is constantly disregarding your needs, you, instead of saying you don't care about anyone but yourself, instead of saying that, you can say, when you ignore my requests, I feel unimportant and hurt. Maybe we could address this together. Or you could say, when you ignore my requests, this is the impact that it has. Like, perhaps we could have a conversation about how this would work better this way or something to that effect. Another example might be like with a friend who's always like monopolizing conversation. And instead of saying, you never listen to me, try saying, there's like not space here. And it's making me feel like I'm not able to share my thoughts. Is there a way that we can have a different approach so that I feel more valued? Because otherwise, I'm feeling like I'm undervalued. I'm sure that's not how you meant it for it to be, but it's how it ends up coming across. Like something like so that it feels like a little bit more balanced, something where you can give them an out but also create space for yourself. The next one is I don't need you. I don't need you, because narcissists don't want that. They don't want to be on the hook for you. They also don't want you to say, I don't need you. It's such a weird dynamic with them because they don't want to have to do anything for you, but they also don't want you to say, I don't need you. They don't want you to be independent, but they also don't want you to have to do anything for you. When you say, I don't need you, that it triggers their fear of abandonment, and it leads them to engaging in manipulative behaviors. It can lead to like this discard phase stuff, this rage stuff. And it can trigger them in a big time way. So the bottom line is what we're trying to do here is protect you from their behavior and the fallout from that, right? So that you can get where you want to go with all of this. Again, maintain an effort on cooperation. I always say fluff for favor, vomit later. So, fluff up their ego a little bit so you can get a little something that give them something that they want so you can get something that you want. And so you have a little mutual benefit. It's ethically manipulating the manipulator here. So try saying, I value our friendship and I value you and you mean so much to me. And I think that we can accomplish so much more if we're both feeling supported here, right? And same thing at work, like in a team project, rather than saying, I don't need you and I don't need your help and I can do this on my own. Like, I feel like we could achieve so much more if we combine our efforts and we both have such strength. Can you see how like this would be so much better? And give me a totally in the comments if you're seeing what I'm saying here. Definitely join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, so that you can get the support and help that you need to, because you definitely don't want to do this alone. Because when you're dealing with a narcissist, they isolate you and they try to make you feel like you're crazy and alone. So get the help and support that you need also. So another example with I don't need you is if you're dealing with a narcissistic family member who tries to control you, instead of saying, I'm fine on my own, you would say, I appreciate your input and I believe that we could find a solution that works for both of us. The last one that you're going to say, this is a huge trigger for kind of anybody, to be honest with you, but especially for a narcissist. Can you guess what it would be? All right, it's calm down. It's like the last thing that anybody wants to do is actually calm down if somebody says calm down, especially a narcissist. I mean, it comes across as dismissive, patronizing, condescending, right? And it definitely just escalates tension and it doesn't diffuse it at all. Nobody is more calm after somebody tells them to calm down. You want to be much more tactical. You want to be smarter about it. You want to acknowledge a person's feelings. You want to actually make them feel heard, and then guide the conversation more towards solutions, such as, I can see this is important to you. Let's figure out how we can address this concern together. So, like, for example, during an argument, instead of saying, calm down, say, I understand this is frustrating. How about if we take a moment to breathe and then work on finding a solution together? Another example, if a narcissistic colleague is getting agitated in a meeting, rather than saying, relax, say, I see that this issue is causing some tension. Let's take a short break and come back with a fresh perspective. So something to that effect. And by the way, if you are needing some more phrases for disarming narcissists, grab my free phrases for disarming narcissists at disarmthenarc.com, and those will definitely help you. You know how crucial the right words are. You know how crucial it is to have empowering strategies. So definitely grab this resource so that it'll help you hold your ground in tough conversation. Have you ever met somebody, they started off to be the most charming, charismatic person you've ever met in your life, then they turned out to be your worst nightmare, and then when you go to negotiate with them, they're a living hell? Well, I developed something called the Slay Method of Negotiating with Narcissists, and it has helped tens of thousands of people in more than 150 countries win, go from feeling drained and defeated to getting the outcomes they want. And the reason why it works is because I spent more than 20 years studying narcissism as a trial attorney, and now I'm here to help you win too, and also take your suffering and turn it into your superpower. Take your pain and turn it into profit, peace, and purpose as a highly specialized, high conflict negotiation coach. If you want to learn how to do it, then just go to RebeccaZung.com/apply, and I will show you how. Okay, so we're going to go through the top 5 mistakes that people make when dealing with narcissists. And I've seen these when people are negotiating with narcissists and also in dealing with them. And I've also made them myself in dealing with the narcissists that I've had to deal with. I had to deal with a couple of covert narcissists in my personal life as well, one in a business setting and one in a family setting. The one I'm saving for last is the reason why I really wanted to make this video. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so number 1 is do not make the mistake of falling into the trap of their future faking. They will future fake you. They will make you think that they've changed. What happens is you will leave, you will maybe come back, you will think that they have changed. They have not changed. Okay. Do not think that they have changed. Do not fall for that. Do not come into thinking that they may have changed. I have interviewed people on this. I have talked to people on this. You can listen to my interviews on this. You can talk to people on this. Don't think that they have changed. They have not changed. Unfortunately, they just don't. So don't fall for that. That's one of the top 5 mistakes that we make, is falling for the future fake, thinking they may have changed when they have not. Don't fall for it. You know what future faking is, right? It's like things are going to be better now, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like a love bomb, but it's already happened. Like you're already in the relationship. And when you're trying to hold them accountable for something and them saying, oh, things are going to be different now, don't look in the past, look to the future. Don't think that they're going to change. They won't. It's all a manipulation. Okay. Number 2 is don't think that you're going to get closure from them. You're not going to. Okay, just forget about it. I thought that I was going to be able to get closure in my relationship with the business narcissist, and you can't. I thought that I was going to be able to have a nice amicable relationship going forward. You can't. And I've seen people fall prey to this many times as well. And you're just not going to be able to do that. As much as you try to wrap things up in a nice little bow and move forward nicely, they're just not capable. They're just too wounded. And so as much as you think that you're going to try to get that closure, you're going to have to get your own closure. Just knowing that you can move forward, knowing that you are healed, knowing that you are going to be a better person from everything that you're learning from this situation, that's the closure that you're getting. The next big mistake that we make in dealing with narcissists is hoping for acknowledgement from them and thinking that you're going to maybe get acknowledgement for anything that you contributed to the relationship, because you're not going to get it. You're not going to get acknowledgement from them. They're not going to say, oh, yeah, you're right, you did a good job, or oh, yeah, you're right, you contributed to my career, or yeah, you helped me in that situation, or you made my life better in this way. You're not going to get that. They're not going to make it seem like, sure, you get to take credit for anything. In fact, if anything, they're going to make it look like you're the problem. I have a whole video on that, 5 ways that they actually try to make you look like the problem. And you can check out my video on that. So they're definitely not going to give you credit for anything. And so we make this mistake of thinking, try to give me credit for this, try to acknowledge me. And if I could just talk to you one more time, if I could just get you to see, stop banging your head against that wall. Banging your head against a brick wall would actually be more satisfying. That's the next big, huge mistake. And if you agree with me so far, give me a totally in the comments. All right. And the next one is expecting any kind of loyalty whatsoever. You're not going to get any kind of loyalty. The only loyalty that they have is to the highest bidder for their supply. You know that they need an endless amount of narcissistic supply. That they're going to go to wherever the best form of supply is that they can get. And so that's where they're going to go. I mean, they're going to go to wherever they can get it. They're like vultures. So if down the road there is a better form of it, that's where they're heading. I mean, they're not going to have loyalty toward you if there's a better form of supply somewhere else. So you can't take that personally, because it really doesn't have anything to do with you. It only has to do with them. Okay, you ready for the last one? This is really the reason why I wanted to do this video. I was actually going to maybe just do the video on just this topic. I was actually thinking about maybe just doing it on the one big mistake that we make with narcissists. But then I thought, well, there's so many. So I decided I didn't mention the other ones. But this is really one that I see so often in negotiating that I thought I have to mention this one. Okay. And that is thinking any sort of like this gratuitous giving is going to garner some sort of favor down the road. It doesn't. Okay. So if you think that you're negotiating with them in some way and that giving them something on the front end is going to get you something on the back end, you're like totally kidding yourself, because it's not. They're just going to take it and like, oh, okay, great. And your point is what? It's like, it's done. They have it and that's it. And now they want more. So what I see a lot of times is people will say, well, I'm going to show them how nice I'm being because I'll show them I don't want any part of their retirement, or I'll show them that I won't touch this, or I won't ask them for support or whatever, giving up leverage. And then they just take that. And then they realize down halfway into the case that they're like, it didn't help at all. The narcissist is being horrible and horrendous anyway. And now they've given up that leverage. Now they wish they hadn't been that way. Or they didn't hire the good lawyer, or they didn't get a custody agreement done at the beginning like their lawyer told them to, or whatever it was that they didn't do because they thought that this gratuitous giving will garner some sort of favor for them down the road. It doesn't. It's a big lie. It's a big fat waste of time. They will not honor agreements. They'll just take, and they will not see that and acknowledge that. And you're just going to end up feeling used and abused. Let me just tell you, if they were a lying, denying, horrible spouse, they're not going to be better during the divorce. And by the way, this goes for if you're breaking up in a business relationship or any kind of a relationship. This is a massive mistake that I see with people, that somehow you think that if you show them how nice you are, that they're going to see that and that you'll be rewarded for that. You won't. Don't fall into that trap. You got to take care of yourself. You got to do what you have to do to end up at fair. And don't feel guilty for that. Do what you have to do to take care of yourself. Do what you have to do to take care of your family. All right. So, early red flags of narcissists, early, before they even come near you. I want to make sure that you get like this cone of safety around you, right? So maybe you've been in a relationship with a narcissist. Maybe you're trying to get out of one right now. And if that's you, if you're trying to get out of one right now, by the way, I have a free ebook that you got to get. It's free Crush My Negotiation Prep Worksheet that you got to get. You just go to crushmydeal.com, free ebook. You can just get that. Just go ahead and grab that. I've had many people win their entire negotiations on it. Just go to crushmydeal.com and get that. But if you are even thinking that you might be in a relationship, these are the early signs. I'm going to give you 6 of them, and you're going to want to stay all the way to the end and see what all 6 of them are. All right. So number 1 is it's a really, really fast moving relationship, really fast moving. They're like right away, it's overwhelming fast. They got to get to it, get to it, get to it. And you're almost overwhelmed at how quickly they're moving along this relationship. And you don't have a chance to catch your breath. That's how it is. By the way, this is business or personal. I was in a business relationship with a narcissist, and I felt this too in the business relationship. It moves very, very quickly. So that's number 1. Number 2, the second big major red flag of a narcissist is that they'll say things like your soulmates, things like that. They'll start saying things that will make you feel like, wow, where has this person been all of my life? Right away. I mean, they might even say that on the first date, or maybe even before the first date, they'll say things like that. So that's number 2, early red flag that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. Number three, they will say things like their ex is just crazy. They'll start right away with how horrible their ex is and how awful it was with their ex. I mean, they might even say how horrible their ex is with their kids, that they're alienating them with their kids. And it was just an awful, traumatic situation with their ex. That's another massive early red flag that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. If you are with a person that has a great relationship with their ex, that's a good sign. That's actually a good sign. Okay. Conversely, number 4, early red flag that you are in a relationship with a narcissist is that they love everything that you love. What narcissists do is they study you. They actually study you and they start mirroring you. They actually kind of become you. They start figuring out what it is that you like. And now all of the sudden, they almost want to align with everything that you love so that you almost sort of fall in love with yourself in a way. They're very, very good at reading people. They've been doing this for years. I don't know if many of you have read the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, where he talked about it took 10,000 hours to achieve mastery. Well, this is way more than 10,000 hours. These are people who have taken years and years and years to achieve mastery and manipulation since they were children. It's a survival mechanism. And so what they have done is actually studied people since they were children, and what they needed to do was to survive was look to see what they needed to do to become that person, to become likable. And so they really almost become that person just to get in with them, just to become assimilated, just to get to that next level of commitment. They love everything that you love initially. And I have a whole series of videos on this love bombing, and then they go into devaluing and then the discard phase. And you can check out my videos on the 3 different levels of a narcissistic relationship yourself if you would like. And now, after all of this, your eyes will be wide open. So I want you to put that in the comments right now. Eyes wide open, because that's where you'll be from now on. Eyes wide open. So that's number 4. Number 5. Number 5 early red sign of narcissism is they'll tell you a sob story to get you to feel sorry for them. You know, maybe they had a horrible childhood. Life hasn't been fair to them. They'll tell you all about how awful things have been for them so that you start to feel sorry for them. Maybe their parents weren't good to them or something happened to them, because they want you to start to empathize for them, have compassion for them, take care of them, start giving them that narcissistic supply that they're seeking. They're going to look to see if you are going to be a good source of narcissistic supply for them. That's what they're going to be looking for. All right. So they're drawing you in, bringing you in to see and starting to test you to see if you are going to be a good source of value, a good source of supply for them. Another early red flag of narcissism, telling you a sob story. All right, that's number 5. And number 6, the last one, is your gut. Trust your gut. You're going to know, you're going to feel like something is off. You're just going to feel it because it's going to be rushed along. They're going to be moving you along. You're going to be feeling like, oh man, put the brakes on. Something is happening. It's going way too fast. And even when you start to go, you know what? Maybe this is moving too fast. I don't know about this. They're going to be going, oh no, this is not moving too fast. We are soulmates. This was meant to be. They're going to be, every time you start to have concerns, they're going to have an answer for you. They're going to be right there, not even giving you that chance to breathe, not giving you that chance to think, because they're going to be right there in your face with the emails, flooding your inbox, showing up wherever all the time. And they're going to know exactly what to say, be perfect at every moment until they lock you in. And that'll be the next level. It seems like every celebrity has access to GLP-1s these days, but what about the rest of us? Now you don't need to be rich or famous to access personalized, tailored weight loss solutions just for you. Through Hers, you can take control of your health. Hers is changing women's healthcare by providing access to holistic weight loss solutions, including GLP-1 treatments with the same active ingredients as Ozempic and Wegovy, oral medication kits, and more. You'll connect with a medical provider who will develop a plan based on your needs. And if prescribed, your medication is included as part of a doctor-designed weight loss program, complete with ongoing care, online support, all at no additional cost. Plans start at just $199 a month with a 12-month subscription, paid up front, and your treatment ships directly to your door. So if you've been struggling with weight loss and you want to find the right solution just for you, start your free online visit today at forhers.com/negotiate. That's forhers.com/negotiate for your personalized weight loss treatment options. Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded programs are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required, restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. So I'm going to give you 6 things to avoid here. And then at the end, I'm going to give you the number 1 thing to avoid. Okay? So 6 things to avoid. And then I'm going to give you the number one thing to absolutely avoid, the mother load of things to avoid, the hairiest thing to avoid of all. All right. Because let me tell you, when you are dealing with narcissists, toxic people, there actually are a number of things to avoid. All right. So I'm going to help you out here for sure. There's just so many times that it's like you're dealing with a landmine when it comes to narcissists. All right. And I know because I've dealt with them in my personal life as well. And that's why I'm on this mission. I'm on this crusade. I've been recognized as one of the top attorneys in the United States. I've written a couple of best-selling books, but I'm here giving you free advice every single day because I want you to have the information in your hands. So if you want that too, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. And by the way, if you're looking for ways to disarm that narcissist, free phrases, free responses, how to respond, you don't know how to put it into emails, you don't know how to put it into text messages, you don't know what to say, I've got those responses for you. Just go to disarmthenarc.com. I've got those free phrases for you. Disarmthenarc.com. All right. So number one, don't try to change their mind. Don't try to change their mind. All right. Because you're never going to do that. Once they get it in their mind that they are going to do something, then that's it. You might be able to change their mind in other ways, but if you head on try to change it, they're going to dig their heels in and be super, super stubborn. To change a narcissist's mind, you've got to kind of plant seeds and sort of let them kind of come to their own conclusions and let them sort of think that it was their idea. You can't head on let them think that you're changing their mind, because if you do, they'll never ever change it. So number one, that's one thing. And I'm working my way up to the mother load thing to avoid when talking to a narcissist or a negative person. All right. The second thing to avoid is don't ever try to get them to acknowledge anything you ever did for them, or your accomplishments or anything like that, because they're never going to do that. They will never acknowledge that. And by the way, if you are negotiating with a narcissist, don't think that early on you are generous and say, you know what, I'm going to give them this thing. I'm going to throw in this thing that I know that they want, or I know is something that I'm entitled to, but I'm going to give it to them because then they'll see how generous I am. And then everything's going to get resolved earlier because they're going to see how nice I am, how generous I am. They don't. They either, number one, think that they're entitled to it. So they're like, no, you're not being generous. That was mine to begin with, or I was entitled to that to begin with. Or number two, they just take it. They basically just throw it to the side and just go, "Yeah, and your point is what? I want more." They don't ever go, yeah, you did this thing, or yeah, that's great what you did for that. They just don't. They don't acknowledge you. They don't see what you've done for them. It doesn't become kind of like, this chip that you did early on, this great sort of generosity accomplishment that you got early on. It doesn't happen like that, unfortunately. So don't think that you're going to do that early on and get some kind of goodwill for it. Okay. So that's the second thing. The third thing that you want to avoid when you are talking to a narcissist or a super negative person is thinking that you're going to get closure. A lot of people just want that closure. They want that bow that tied up. Hey, we had a great thing. Let's wish each other well. Let's know that it was all good. and, going forward, let's be on good terms and all those things. That's what I thought when I was wrapping things up with a person in my life that I had a business relationship with. I thought that I could do that and leave it all on good terms and have some kind of closure with it, talk it through. It doesn't work that way with narcissists. They're not capable of it. No matter what you do, even if they wanted to end the relationship, they still end up taking it personally that you were okay with it, that you're walking away from it. Even if you didn't want to walk away from it, they still end up looking at you as an enemy no matter what. If you're not for them, then you're against them. You're not going to get that closure. You're still going to end up being public enemy number one. It's not going to feel fair. It's still going to be awful. You're not going to get that. So don't think that. Avoid talking to them about that. Avoid thinking that you're going to get that nice little neat bow at the end of that. Just avoid that conversation. Avoid trying to have that closure conversation because you're not going to get the thing that you think that you're going to. And in fact, you're going to end up hurting yourself more than anything because whatever you say or do will end up being used against you no matter what, because they will end up saying and twisting things that you do. Okay. So, which leads me to the next thing, which is don't argue with them, because when you argue with them, then you will end up getting into that quicksand with them. And, that's exactly what they want you to do when you argue with them. Now you're getting into the thick of it. And, I remember, some of the narcissists that I've known, they'd be like, yeah, now we're getting into it. Now we're having a conversation. They actually enjoy that. They get off on it, they get a high on it, and you are out of your realm because, especially if you are, an empath and you think that you are going to get to a resolution, you think that you are covering ground, you think that you are getting to an end point. You are not, they are trying to just keep you spinning your wheels. They're just, yanking your chain, spinning your yarn, and it ends up costing you money, costing you time, costing you energy, your mental health, your soul, the whole thing. You are just arguing with them and they're just getting narcissistic supply out of the deal. You're going nowhere. So that is just one of those things that you really need to avoid. And by the way, I've gone through 4 things so far. I still haven't gotten to the number one thing that you need to avoid, by the way. Okay. These are just other things that you need to avoid. There's still not even the number one thing that you need to avoid. Have you figured out what the number one thing is yet? Haven't even gotten to it yet. These are all just other things that you need to avoid. All right. The next thing that you need to avoid, which is still not the number one thing, but is a 5th thing that you need to avoid, is definitely avoid defending yourself. Do not defend yourself. Do not go, I didn't do that. That's not me. Are you kidding me? You think that I did that? What are you saying? I'm not a horrible person with money. I don't steal. I'm not a child molester. I don't do. What are you saying? How can you accuse me of that? You know, those are the kinds of things that narcissists want you to say. I don't beat children. I don't do, I'm not a horrible mother or a deadbeat dad. Those are the kinds of things that narcissists want you to say. They want you to get into it with them, right? They want you to say those things because that is where they get you down into it again, right? Arguing with it. They pull you into that quicksand. They pull you into that mud, right? They start going down into it. Oh, you bought a dog that was a designer poodle or a designer this or that. And you're like, what? I got the dog at the pound and I can prove it. And then there you are defending yourself. Don't go down the path. Don't do it. When you defend yourself, you're agreeing that there is an issue. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is say, I deny. I deny what you're saying. No, there's no merit to what you are saying. There's so much more merit in short things. Never explain, justify, or overshare. Just the facts. Stay strong. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. Stay strong. Stay strong. You can do it. And by the way, still haven't gotten to number one. Still haven't gotten to number one, which is what I'm going to do right now. Are you ready for number one? The number one thing to avoid when talking to a narcissist or a negative person, the number one thing, which I've kind of alluded to here so far, but I haven't actually come out and said it yet. The number one thing to avoid when talking to a narcissist is do not take their bait. Do not take their bait because they're going to give you a lot of it. They're going to pull it out and they're going to reel you in like that. Like you are some kind of fish on their hook. And then there you are coming in like that. And like they hooked you like a fish. Okay. And, dealing with a narcissist is like getting arrested. Like everything you say or do is going to end up being used against you. Right. And you don't want to have to deal with that. And this is whether you're dealing with it in a case, a court case, or any kind of situation. It can be any kind of a negotiation or anything. All right, so let's talk about the covert, stealth, pretty evil, passive aggressive narcissist. And they're quietly cruel. It's not like that grandiose narcissist that's out there. Everybody knows about the grandiose narcissist. They tell everybody they're a narcissist. I'm the best. I'm the greatest. They announce themselves when they come into a room, when they come into a space. Everybody hears it. Not the covert, quiet, cruel, passive aggressive one. Everybody thinks that they are wonderful, kind, amazing. These are the ones that are often humanitarians, lawyers, doctors, ministers. These are the ones that are often very charming to the rest of the world. Everybody thinks they're so wonderful, kind. This is why you think that you're going crazy. Because when you try to tell people about what's going on, it's really hard to put into words because it's so tiny, it's so microscopic and so little bits at a time that it's almost, like making you go crazy, like a little, it's almost like that drip on your head, just a little at a time. I've been exactly where you are. Believe me, it's so torturous. It's so horrible. And they use silence to erase your feelings many times in a number of ways. Other tactics like passive aggression, the types of tactics that they use employ something that we call plausible deniability. And what that means is that there's a way to just sort of go, it wasn't me. I didn't do that. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. So that they can keep their hands clean, keep themselves looking fresh, looking innocent. I didn't have anything to do. I didn't mean it that way. What are you talking about? No idea. What? Oh my gosh. I can't believe you would think that of me. Oh, what? like that. When you know exactly what's going on, and they know exactly what's going on, and they know that you know exactly what's going on, but nobody else does. And that's the maddening, crushingly cruel piece of it. And that's why it drives everybody crazy. You, especially, it drives you crazy. Let's talk about the quiet cruelty of that passive aggressive narcissist, shall we? So they use silence to erase your feelings, for one thing, in a number of ways. For example, they won't respond to your texts. So they'll say something to you, but not respond back. So, for example, you'll have a conversation with them about, hey, it's not convenient for you to be texting me during this particular time. Please don't do that. And so they'll punish you by not texting you at all for other times when they know it's meaningful to you. They'll just not text you at all at times when they know you want them to punish you. So they use silence to erase your feelings. Or they'll send you texts that they know are inflammatory, like, what are you doing at this place? And you'll write back and you'll say, you knew that I was going to be here, and you're upset about this questioning. And so you write them back immediately, and then they don't respond. And you know that they've read it, and you know that they're there, and you know that they purposely do that to punish you, that sort of thing. They will purposely not ask about your feelings. So they'll use silence to also punish you by not asking you about your feelings. They can see that you're upset about something, or they can see that you're not feeling well or cold or something like that. And they'll purposely not ask about it, not notice it, even though they know that that's something that you want. They purposely don't give you what you want. They use silence to punish you, to be cruel, and not give you the things that they know that you want by using silence. They'll go to the store and not ask you if you want something. And you'll say, why didn't you ask me if I wanted anything? Oh, I didn't know that you wanted me to, or something to that effect. It's such a small thing. So it's like, but you know that they were doing that to punish you, something to that effect. Or you'll ask them to get you something while they were at the store, and they'll purposely forget the things that you asked them to get. But, if you tell somebody about it, they'll be like, oh, well, maybe it was inadvertent, but you know that it wasn't. Things to that effect. They'll purposely twist your words just to punish you. You'll say something and then they purposely twist your words to punish you. And you know that that's not what you said, but they twist your words on purpose. There's this undercurrent of competition, this undercurrent of hostility, this undercurrent of resentment, these little passive aggressive ways of saying things. They will oftentimes, if you ask them to do something, they'll say yes, that they will do it, and then they just simply don't. And so you're left asking them when they're going to, you have to follow up. And then they will either claim ignorance. Oh, we didn't talk about that. Or, oh, we talked about it was going to be a different thing. And they claim ignorance about it, or they will do a lousy job, or they will underperform. when you call them out on it, but they act like, oh, this is what we talked about. And they'll be nice about it, but it's like this quiet, like undervaluing of you, this devaluing of you, but it's very, very subtle, very subtle. They don't say anything directly, so they withhold information, especially if it's going to help you. And then you find out later that they were withholding information that could have helped you on something. They will exclude you. And oftentimes you find out later that they excluded you from something, but they will claim that they just forgot or didn't realize, something like that. There's just this underhanded thing that's going on. And if you've seen this, give me a yes in the comments. Comment some other things that you guys have seen as well. Would love to know what your thoughts are on this. Some of the other things that they will do is they'll say things that are sort of underhanded as well. So, for example, they might say something like, oh my gosh, you've lost so much weight. How great for you. Oh my gosh, too bad about the stretch marks though. Like it's almost like they give you a compliment, but not really. Oh, that's so exciting that you get to work with that amazing person that I know you've been wanting to work with. I mean, I've never heard of them until you mentioned them, but I know you think they're a big deal. So congratulations to you on that. It's like this underhanded like thing, right, that they give you. So it's just that sort of thing, this quiet cruelty that you get with covert passive aggressive narcissists. And believe me, I had a covert passive aggressive narcissist business partner, so I know all about how it is when you deal with them, and it literally drives you absolutely crazy, and you end up losing sleep at night and you start to feel sick. That is why I ended up doing what I'm doing here right now. And so, in some ways, I guess I should thank the person, but I know how it is. So, believe me, you are not alone, but they do end up destroying themselves. I'll admit it, I'm that person. I'm the one the night before a birthday, an anniversary, or any kind of special occasion, I'm frantically searching the aisles for the right card and one that doesn't seem kind of corny or cringeworthy. You know the struggle, right? But then I found Moonpig. It's a total game changer. They have tons of adorable, funny, even heartfelt designs ready to go, and you can even personalize them, which is super cool. You can even upload your favorite photos or tweak the text to make it uniquely you. And they'll even suggest clever messages if you're feeling stuck. Oh, and no more forgetting birthdays or scrambling for addresses. Moonpig lets you save everything in one place and even sends you reminders. Plus, they've got the opportunity to upload gift cards from all your favorite places like Sephora or Starbucks, so you can really nail that perfect gift vibe. Once you've designed your card, they'll even mail it for you, or if you want to hand deliver it, they'll send it to you with a cool envelope. So guess what? This is your chance. Your first card is totally free. Just use the code FREE and go to moonpig.com/US/negotiate. Seriously, stop stressing and start impressing. Make someone's day with Moonpig. Try it right now. I want to just briefly talk about your 5Ds because I think that these are so good.
Yeah. Yep. So it's the 5Ds in a relationship, but it's not, these 5Ds can apply to any relationship. It can apply to a work relationship.
Yeah.
And the first one is distort.
So these are the 5Ds that are negative forces in a relationship.
Yep. So distort. That D, what does it do? It tells lies. It plants negative thoughts in you, right? It makes you think negative things. So the thing that I always say, and so let's apply it to your relationship. You could think, oh, he doesn't love me anymore. He doesn't think I'm pretty. Well, That's distortion, right? Those are lies. It's the lies that you're just listening to negative lies. And so speak truth to the lies, right? The minute you start hearing those kind of things coming in, speak truth. Just, I literally, the minute I do that, sometimes I even verbally go, stop. And I'll say something positive to myself, or I'll think a positive thought. Does that make sense? So you've got to,
we are meaning making machines, right?
Yeah.
We make things mean things that don't mean that.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's a big one. So distortion in a relationship, in any relationship, is not good. And the next one is discourage. Okay. So your distortions can turn into discouragement. Oh, I'm not good enough for him. So you start to play this thing in your mind. I'm not worthy. So no, then you need to turn it around. Encourage yourself, again, encourage your partner. So it may be that it's your partner. Like I said, he wanted to come in. I wanted to cut him down and discourage him, but instead I encouraged him. So you've got to turn that one around. So first D's distort, second D's discourage, and the third one is doubt, right? So lies and discouragement lead to doubt yourself, to doubt God's plan for you, to doubt your direction, to doubt the love that your partner might have for you. So the way to counter doubt is through trust. So when John had shared with me that he, had done this infidelity, at that point, I can continue to doubt. The minute he was going out, I could have doubted him. But for me, I knew that I had to trust. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying trust without something to back it up. They need to give you something to trust, right? But just make sure it's not things you're kind of just, coming up with in your own head. And the fourth D is distract. And this is such a big one because think about it. If you are busy or your partner's busy, say you're busy doing all the things that you need to do to take care of your household or take care of the kids or make money, and you're feeling, kind of unappreciated. And all of a sudden, somebody kind of comes into your life that tells you how wonderful you are, how, it's a distraction. Or, a lot of times for men, and women, it can be pornography. It can be pornography, something that distracts you and just seems shiny and bright, and distraction from your relationship. You need to be careful of that because, that there's that whole saying, if the devil doesn't make you busy, and you're right. If the devil doesn't make you bad, he'll make you busy. So it's a distraction. Mm-hmm. And then the fifth one is divide. And that divide, if it's in a relationship or in a marriage, I should say, the divide means divorce. And so you have to guard yourself against those 5 Ds. And so it's about counteracting each one of them. And the divide, again, if you two are connected as a couple, you can really negate a lot of that. It's when you're not united. Again, it's when you're doing the I and not the we. So those are the 5 Ds.
Right. And again, we stress, obviously, if you are in an abusive relationship, if you are in a situation where your partner is a narcissist.
Right.
And not willing to change and being verbally or emotionally abusive to you, then clearly and not willing to be a we.
Right. And in that case, then you need to walk away from the relationship. And I'm not one to say, leave the relationship, but there are deal breakers. And exactly what you just named, those are deal breakers. If they're not willing to change, if they're not willing to look at themselves, if they're not willing to be honest, right? That's huge. Here's an example. And it can be, you come up with your own guidelines, but say your partner has cheated on you or has shown that they've been distracted. Maybe for building trust, you can look at their phone. Now, some people might think that's a violation, but you know what? If that's something that you two negotiate and say, you know what, it just would make me feel better until I can trust you. One of the things that John did do, I got to tell you, I persecuted him, and rightly so. I mean, I was so hurt and I felt very, very, deceived, right? So when John really he was working towards being in the relationship and being a good partner, I was allowed to look at his phone whenever I wanted to, and I hand it over. And now some people might feel like, oh well, that's that in itself. For me, it was very important. It was very important for me to look and see what was going on, because I needed to build that trust. So, your partner has to be willing to do, and, you have to negotiate those together.
Yeah.
Depending on what they are.
And so what does that mean for you? And one of the things that I like is that you have this list of things like what is, a perfect partner for you. And I think that that's an important thing for people. Okay, if they're not going to stay in this relationship,
Mhm.
what does that look like going forward? And in some ways it's sort of a manifestation exercise.
Yeah. I always say I did my best relationship work when I was not in a relationship. So, I mean, I dated some real winners before I met John. And wow, I dated an incredible narcissist. Whew, he was a piece of work, but I mean, he brought me to my knees. I mean, there was a lot of pain and a lot of crying, but I was able to work on myself a lot. And I think that's why when John started exhibiting these behaviors, I didn't cave and I didn't fold and I didn't go down, because I saw it for what it was. And I had done enough work on myself where I'm like, hey, that's not okay. This behavior is not okay. And I'm having to teach my daughter that. She actually got into a relationship with a narcissist. And I watched as he started to look better and do better. The more she kept feeding into him, this guy ended up I mean, it was amazing to see the transformation in him. And it was sickening to see the transformation in my daughter. She absolutely did not look like herself. She didn't act like herself. It was a really sad thing. It was almost like he sucked the lifeblood out of her,
Oh
so
yeah, I saw it in my daughter as well.
yeah.
I
So
mean, it
you
was
have
awful.
to be careful of that. So you should always be working on yourself. And yeah, I listen, make a list of what's important to you in a relationship and pay attention. Some of this is really basic, right? But we forget because we get so taken back by maybe the good looks or the charisma. It's the same thing that I tell my kids. When they were going to school, I used to say, if you are in a group of people or you're with somebody and you walk away and you don't feel good, they're not your people. They're not your people. So you always have to pay attention to that. Yeah. So it's very important to do the work on yourself when you're not in a relationship.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to say is stop trying to make stop trying to make not your people your people.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and so you have the 4 C's, which I love for, if you don't have it in your current relationship, then I think it's totally a deal breaker. And, this is something that you definitely want in your next relationship. So talk about that. And I think that that's like a good way for us to wrap up.
Okay. So the first of the 4 C's is communicate. I said it. I've said it a couple times in this interview. I'm going to say it again. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Where there's a void in negativity, where there's a void in communication, negativity will fill it. So I always like to encourage couples to find a time that works for you. So I knew with my husband, right when he was walking in the door, was not a good time to try to communicate with him. So find your sweet spot. And I've had to find that with my kids. What's the best time to talk to them where they really open up to me? So communicate. One of the things you can do as a couple, ask your spouse or ask your partner, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do I communicate? And what would make it a 10? Right? That's an easy one. So the next C is connect. And you have to communicate to connect. And again, that sounds like an obvious one, but think about it. When you get really busy with work and with kids and, maybe starting a new business, whatever it is, you don't take as much time to connect. So try to find a time that works for you all to connect. Now, one of the things that I did with my husband is we would take a walk. And I got to tell you, sometimes these walks, we would fight. But by the end of the walk, we ended up working out a lot. So sometimes it's just about that movement and the talking that we were able to talk a lot. And one of the things that I highly recommend that people do with their family is a family meeting. Once a week, we would get together with our children and sit around the table. And I'm going to tell you something, it was not easy. There were times we'd go family, or John would say family meeting, or maybe I would start it depending. And, the eyes would roll and everybody had to put their phones down. But Rebecca, I'm going to tell you something. It was fascinating to me. John or I would bring something to the table to read. A lot of times it might be maybe scripture or an article that somebody had written. And it never failed that something one of us was going through, we wouldn't know the kids were experiencing. This article would just open up the channels for us to have a conversation. And it made our family dynamic and our connection with each other so strong. We became such a stronger family. The only regret that I have about family meetings is I didn't start soon enough. So even if it's just you and your spouse or your mate, do it. So that's communicate, connect, and the next one is commit. Commit to your relationship. Commit to work on it. Commit to, and it could be little things. So, there's been a study that the strongest relationships are when each of the partners take time to listen to their spouse or help them with something. And I'm talking little things. So John might be writing an article and he might call me into his office and say, hey, can you just read this real quick? And I'm going to tell you something. Last thing I want to do is sit down at that moment and read through his article. But I know it's important to him. And so I'll take that 5 minutes to sit and read the article and give my input. So it's committing to the relationship. It might mean going to a company party with your spouse when you really have no desire to hang out with the work, the work people. So commit to your relationship. And then the last one is care. Show you care. Isn't it funny how a lot of times in relationship, our spouse is like the last one we give the love to. And we kind of talked about that in the 5 Ds too, but showing that you care about them, that you care about the relationship. So, and that's the whole it's we, not me. So
Right.
Those are the 4 C's: communicate, connect, commit, and care. And those apply to not just intimate relationships. Again, can apply to work relationships, any of that.
Friendships.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I am so happy that we're diving into this critical topic, what not to say to a narcissist during negotiations. That it also applies during any kind of communications with a narcissist. So let's get started. When you are having a conversation or a negotiation with a narcissist, it can be really challenging, and saying the wrong thing can escalate the situation very, very quickly. And they want to get more power over you. So it's really essential that you choose your words carefully so that you maintain control and keep everything on track, right? It's all about you having that mastery and not them. And so here are some things that you should avoid immediately and why, along with some alternative approaches, some alternative things that you can do. So don't say like you're a narcissist or any kind of labeling. If you do that, you're going to provoke extreme defensiveness, extreme rage, obviously, and you're going to derail the whole process, the whole negotiation process. They have very fragile egos and they react badly to any kind of direct criticism or labeling. If you say things like, you're such a narcissist for always making everything about you. You might say things like, I feel the conversation is focused on your needs. Can we also consider my perspective, right? So instead of labeling, you might use we. Can we have this conversation? That's also a good thing. We can go in this direction, and that's less likely to trigger a defensive response, and it keeps things flowing much better. The next thing is to avoid invalidating their perspective. So if you say things like, can't you just be reasonable? It's going to invalidate their perspective, even though they do the same thing to you all the time. I know, but they pride themselves on their superiority. So, I always say fluff or favor, vomit later, right? I'll be fluffing up that ego. So you got to be careful. You can't just say, you just need to be reasonable. You can say things like, I agree that we are on a different page. I think that we can all come to a reasonable solution. I know that that's what we all want. And I know that that would be so beneficial, especially to you. Let's explore options that will be workable and frame things in terms of mutual benefits, implying that it's all going to be great for everyone involved rather than assigning blame. And the next thing is avoiding direct confrontation. If you say things like you're wrong, you're going to be pushing right up against it, and they have a deep fear of being wrong, anything that it's going to lead to just absolute stonewalling and escalation. And if you try to get them to admit to any wrongdoing, they're never going to admit it. They just won't. So you might as well try to get blood out of a stone. It ain't going to happen. Just present it as we have a different viewpoint rather than go back to what the different viewpoints are. Let's work toward a solution at this point. Let's continue the dialogue. If you try to go back, you're never going to get anybody to admit. Okay, so just move forward. Are these tips helpful so far? If you're finding this helpful so far, give this a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might benefit from this. And just say, agree if you have seen this so far. Like, like that this is how they are. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that. And get my free Crush My Negotiation Prep playbook at winmynegotiation.com if you want to get the upper hand in these negotiations. Don't use absolutes. Don't say you always or you never, because that also triggers their defensiveness. They're extremely defensive. They're looking for these moments where they feel attacked and misunderstood. They're overly sensitive to criticism. They're extremely easily slighted. So if you say, oh, you never listen to me, or you always make it about yourself, they're like immediately going to be on defense. Oh, I always listen to you. I'm always like, I'm the best. You can't make it about that. Okay. And you can't make it about your feelings, because remember, they don't care about your feelings. And so the next thing is avoid minimizing their position. It's not a big deal. You can't say things like that. What are you thinking about like that? You're overreacting. All the things that they do to you, no, you can't do back to them because that's not going to be perceived well for them. So you've got to say things like, oh, I understand this is really important to you. And we will absolutely address that. I hear you. That makes sense. We'll find something that's a productive end result, a productive resolution. Use words like that. That's how you're going to have to come to a resolution. Similarly, avoid dismissing their emotions. You're basically dealing with a toddler. You can't tell a toddler to calm down. That's not going to make them calm down. You've got to be like, okay, let's take a deep breath. I understand this is upsetting. Of course, you have every right to be upset. Validate their feelings and avoid comparisons. Oh, how come you're not more like Donnie over there? Or how come you can't be more like me? Because that, again, triggers. They're extremely insecure people. They're extremely envious, extremely jealous, and they have feelings of inadequacy. So if you do that, that's going to make them very difficult to deal with. Be extremely defensive. Don't bring in other people. Don't compare. The next one is avoiding sarcasm. Oh, great. Sure. Everything your way. Absolutely. Just like it's always been. No, you don't do that because they have to be taken seriously. It's so hard. You have to be the bigger person. You have to be the better person. It's extremely difficult because you keep thinking, why do I have to be the bigger person? Because you're dealing with a 2-year-old. That's why. It's not fair, but it is what it is. And then the last one is avoiding threats and ultimatums. You will get them from them. Do this or I'm out of there. This is the first thing or I'm done. That's how they'll often start it. I've seen that many times, but you can't do this. If you don't agree with this, I'm done. I'll walk away right now. Don't do that. Let them play the games. You don't play the games. If you both are like that, then you're not going to get anything done. So focus on being steady, be strong. Don't be a doormat, but okay, we are going to focus on a solution. Here are the solutions. You're not combative, you don't confront, cooperative, but obviously you have your boundaries as well. I mean, the way you do that is when you go into your negotiation, you're fully prepared. You have your best case scenario, your worst case scenario, your risk, you've weighed it all. That's why you get your Win My Negotiation. Go to Win My Negotiation, get your Crush My Negotiation prep playbook. That'll help you.